Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Core and Restore. Hope you're having a fabulous week and getting to enjoy some of the sunshine. It's nice and toasty in the room here. When we're ready, we'll begin down on the mats today. We'll begin in our 4-point position. We're going to begin by grounding ourselves in this room and in this moment. Here in this 4-point position, hands will stack underneath shoulders, knees will stack underneath hips. Our line of vision's coming right to our fingertips. We're grounding ourselves here, being completely present, pressing down into this room. From here, we will exhale to draw our backs up towards the sky, taking a little tuck through the pelvis, taking a look at our knees here, coming into our cat position. Next big inhale, we'll drop our belly buttons on down towards the ground, pulling our chest to the sky, finding our cow position here. Big exhale as we arch through the back, tuck through the pelvis. Draw our line of vision to look at our knees and cat. Inhaling to pull our chest through, drop our belly buttons on down towards the ground, take a look up at the sky. This is a really great one to pace to our breaths as we arch through the back to come into cat. Inhaling as we come into cow. Let's get 2 more breaths here. Allowing the air to fill up our lungs as we draw our air deep into the reaches of our lungs. 1 more breath here. From here, let's return back to neutral spine together, halfway between our cat and cow. Once we're here, we can take a reach of those left fingertips, drawing them towards the front of the mat, coming into a circle here. Just warming up through the shoulders. We can keep that line of vision looking right at our fingertips. We want to keep our torso nice and stable here as we move through this arm circle. Let's get 3 more circles here. Taking these slow and controlled, paying attention to the range of motion that feels right for us today. On this next one, when we draw those fingertips up to our top point, can we take some rolls out of our wrists as we lower through that arm? Rolling out through the wrists, let's get 1 more circle here. From here, we'll replant those hands back on down to the mat, and we'll come into our opposite side. Once again, beginning with those shoulder circles. Taking these slow and controlled. Let's get 3 more here. Working through that shoulder mobility, paying attention to any sticky spots, any tension we may have. Let's get 1 more. Next time we draw those fingertips up, can we take some rolls out of the wrist as we continue with that circle? We're still pulling that belly button up towards our spine as we move through this motion. And last circle. We'll replant those hands back on down underneath our shoulders here. From here, we could take a moment reaching our fingertips out towards the front of the mat. We'll begin with some lifts here, lifting those fingertips up parallel with our shoulders, keeping our torso nice and stable, and tapping those fingertips back on down to the mat. As we're doing this, our line of vision is looking down at our squared fingertips here. We're bracing through our core, thinking about pulling that belly button up towards our spine, keeping our back nice and stable. Let's get 2 more lifts here. From here, we can sweep those hands, bringing them back to our starting position, and extend through the opposite back leg. We're going to point through these toes and come into a leg lift. Once again, bracing through our core to prepare. We can take an inhale as we lift that leg, bringing it parallel with our hips, and then tapping those toes on down to the mat. Just finding some stability here. Let's get 3 more here before we add this together with the motion of our arm. And last one. Next time that we tap those toes on down to the ground, can we stay here? We're going to extend through those fingertips at the same time. From here, next big inhale, we'll draw fingertips and toes up to the top point, tapping down on our exhale. Bracing through the core here, we want to stay within our range of stability. So lifting up just parallel with our shoulders and our hips. We don't want to be bending through the back here. Imagine somebody comes and sets your favorite drink right on your tailbone. Could we keep it nice and stable as we flow through this movement? We're going to add on here in 3. And last 2. We still want to be pacing this with our breath as we inhale to lift up to this top point. Exhale as we tap our fingertips and toes down. And last one. Let's come on up to this top point together. From here, on our next exhale, we're going to pull elbow towards our knee and then extend through our fingertips and toes out to this lengthened position. Pulling elbows to knees here on our exhale. Inhaling as we draw our fingertips and toes towards opposite edges of the mat. You want to think about drawing your knees and your noses together here. Beautiful work. Let's get 2 more here. Next time that we come up to this top lengthened position, can you meet me here? We're going to take a flex of our foot, drawing our pinky toes down towards the ground, holding this point of stability. From here, if you want a little more, we can take that extended hand and draw it parallel with our shoulders over to the side. Sweep it back to the front. Challenge our balance here just a little bit. Let's get 5 sweeps of the hand, drawing it parallel with our shoulders out to the sides. Holding ourselves lifted here. We have 3 more. We can pace this with our breath, exhaling to draw it out to the T position. Inhaling as we draw it back out in front of us. And last one. From here, we'll keep that hand extended. We're going to do the same thing with our legs, sweeping it out to the diagonal, pulling it back to our starting point. It might be a little trickier here to maintain balance. Embrace the wobble here. We're bracing through our core. Let's get 1 more sweep of the leg. From here, we'll tap those fingertips and toes on down before we send them out to the edges of our mat. We're going to lift up into that diagonal now. So lifting up from the edges of the mat and replacing on down to the edges of the mat. See how that changes our sense of balance. Check in with ourselves here. Beautiful work. We can still pace this with our breath as we inhale up to this top point. Exhaling on the way down. Let's get 3 more. Beautiful work. And last one, I want you to meet me up at our top point here. We're going to flex down through the foot, pointing those pinky toes down to the mat, and we're going to pulse here. Little tiny movements, really challenging our balance. And here for 5. And 3, 2, 1. Beautiful work. Sweep on down. We're going to bring those ankles together, widen the straddle of our knees, sit back onto our heels, and walk those hands out to the tippy top of the mat, coming into our child's pose here. We'll rest here in child's pose for a moment. If it's in your practice today, we can take an exhale, pulling our arms parallel with our shoulders, resting in this child's pose, and then inhaling to send them back up towards the tippy top of the mat. Pulling those arms into cactus position on our exhales, inhaling as we draw them back up towards the tippy top of the mat. We'll get 1 more here before we send those fingertips back to the tippy top of the mat. From here, we'll walk those hands in towards our center, once again coming back on up. We'll press up into our 4-point position here, once again, hands stacking underneath shoulders, knees stacking underneath hips. And we're going to come into the opposite side. So once again, let's brace through our core here. Make sure that we're pulling that belly button up towards our spine. And we're going to extend those opposite fingertips out in front of us, beginning with this lift. Squeezing through those shoulders at our top point here. Exhaling as we tap those fingertips on down. Inhaling through the lift. Exhaling as we lower. Our line of vision is still looking right down at our fingertips. Let's get 3 more here before we add on. And last one. Next time that we come on down, we're going to sweep those hands back to their starting position. Extending through the opposite leg this time, pointing through those toes. Once again, our line of vision is looking right at our fingertips. We'll inhale to lift that leg on up, squeezing those glutes at this top point. Exhaling as we lower through the leg. Check in with yourself. See if it's a little bit more difficult to balance on one side rather than the other. We can still inhale on that way up. Exhaling slowly as we tap our toes on down. And let's get 2 more here. Next time that we tap our toes on down, can you meet me at this bottom position? We're going to extend through our opposite fingertips and toes here, lengthening to the edges of the mat. Big inhale to lift, and exhale to lower. We're starting here, moving slow and controlled through this movement. Beautiful work. We're still inhaling into this lift. Exhaling as we lower down. Let's get 3 more here. Like I said, we might notice it's a little bit trickier to balance on one side rather than the other. Just embrace that wobble. Our body's learning to recruit new muscles as we attempt to stabilize in this movement. Let's get 1 more here. Next time we come on up to our top point, can you meet me here? On our exhale, we're going to draw our nose towards our knees, elbows to opposite knee. Inhaling as we extend. Exhaling to draw opposite elbow towards opposite knee. Beautiful work. Let's get 4 more here. And last 3. And 2, we're going to come out to our heightened position once again. And last one. I want you to meet me at our extended position here, drawing those fingertips and toes to their top points, parallel with our shoulders and hips. From here, we're once again going to come into those arm sweeps, drawing our arms parallel with our shoulders, and sweeping back to the front. We can once again pace this with our breath, exhaling to draw out to the sides, inhaling as we drop back to this front point. Let's get 3 more sweeps through the arm here. And last one. From here, we'll draw those arms back to our front point. We could find those diagonal sweeps of the leg if we'd like. Once again, exhaling to sweep those legs out to the side. Inhaling to pull back to center. Let's get 3 more here. And last one. From here, we'll bring those fingertips and toes towards opposite edges of the mat. Once again, coming into our diagonal lifts. We'll inhale to lift here. Exhale to tap back down to the edges of our mat. Beautiful work. We can still pace this with our breath. Inhaling on the way up. Exhaling as we tap down slow. Let's get 2 more here. We're going to freeze at this top point in 1. Next time we come up to this top point, we're going to pulse it out here. Little tiny movements as we send those fingertips and toes up, just up and down, just about an inch. And here for 5. And 3, 2, 1. Beautiful work. We'll sweep those hands and feet back down to our starting kneeling position. We can bring our ankles together, sitting back onto our heels. We can widen the straddle of our knees and walk those hands out to the tippy top of the mat. Once again, coming into our child's pose. From here, we can walk those hands in towards our chest. Once again, we're going to turn to come into our seated position on the mat. Pressing those seat bones into the mat, we're going to take our hands to the nooks of our knees and gently lower ourselves on down to the mat. We're going to come into an imprinted spinal position here, working on our core engagement for a moment. We can think about bracing through our core here, pressing that low back into the mat. We'll bring our hands to rest right on top of our ribs here, right over our belly button. You could think about inhaling, letting those fingertips gently spread away from each other. And as we exhale, we're knitting our ribs together. We feel our fingertips grasp together. So we can think about inhaling, feeling those fingertips drift apart. Exhaling, knitting our ribs together, closing that distance between our fingertips. Let's get 2 more breaths here. We should feel our fingertips knit together as we brace through our core on those exhales. And last breath here. We're going to feel that bracing through our core as we move into this core track here. So we can bring those hands to the sides of our bodies. Feet are going to be about palms distance away from our glutes. We can begin here by inhaling to prepare. Exhaling as we march that left leg up into tabletop. Right leg will follow. We'll tap those left toes back down. Right legs will follow. So we're marching one leg up into tabletop at a time, starting here. We want to keep that low back pressing into the mat throughout this movement. And we're here for 4. And last 3. Check in with your core. Are we still bracing through those breaths of exhaling as we draw those legs on up, inhaling as we tap our toes on down. And let's get 1 more here. Next time that we tap those toes on down to this bottom point, we're going to glue our ankles together, lifting both legs up into tabletop at a time, and then tapping those toes on down to the ground, keeping that low back pressing into the mat. If you want to up the ante here, up the level of intensity, you could try tapping those legs further away from your center, tapping your heels on down. It's a choose your own adventure here about how much core work you want to get out of this by dialing those legs just a little bit further away if you'd like. And let's get 3 more here. And last one. From here, we'll bring those legs back on down to our starting position, feet about palms distance away from our glutes. We can bring our hands gently behind our head in this next movement. We're going to take an exhale to lift. We're going to draw one leg up into our tabletop position. We're going to tap those toes back down and release through our necks. So we're going to exhale up, march one leg up into tabletop, and return back on down to our starting position. Just marching one leg up at a time here. Coming into a little crunch. You want to think about peeling your shoulder blades all the way up off the mat as we come into this crunch. Beautiful work. We are here for 4. Keep that low back pressing into the mat. We also want to think about the safety of our neck as we move through this crunch. We want to keep a distance between our chin and our chest. You can think about holding an apple underneath our chin here. We're going to change things up into and last one. Next time that we march those legs on up into our tabletop position, could we draw our opposite shoulder towards that knee? Coming back through center before we tap our toes on down. So we're coming into some bicycle crunches here. Opposite shoulder towards opposite knee. You may have heard in the past to go opposite elbow towards opposite knee in these bicycle crunches. But if you pull that opposite shoulder towards our opposite knee, we're going to get more of a side body stretch here. Work a little bit deeper through our abdominal muscles. Beautiful work. Let's get 3 more here. We want to take these bicycle crunches as slowly as possible. And last 2. Let's get 1 more here. We'll tap both of those legs on down back into the starting position. We'll march both legs up into this tabletop. From here, we're going to come into our single crunches. So we're going to draw our chest towards our thighs on our exhales. Noses are going towards our knees. And then we'll inhale back to relax. Exhaling up into our chest lift. Inhaling back to relax over the mat. Taking these slow and controlled, exhaling, crunching through the core, thinking about closing that distance between our ribs and our hips. And we have 5 here. We're going to add on in 4. And last 3. Keep that low back pressing into the mat for 2 here. And last one, next time that we come on up into our lifted chest position, can we release those hands from the back of our head? We're going to alternate reaching for our ankles, attempting to tap towards our feet. Little bit of oblique work here. And we're here for 5. Let's get 3 more. We're going to stay in this chest lift in 2. From here, we're going to hold this chest lift, drawing our palms on down to the sides of the mat. We are going to come into our hundreds here, so keeping those legs up in this tabletop position. We are going to press our palms down towards the ground. Find that chest lift here. Beautiful work. We are here for 5 and 3, 2 and 1. Beautiful work. We'll release on down here. We can walk those feet to the edges of our mat. We're going to give our core some love here by drawing those knees from side to side. And we're headed right into our cool down from here. So we can send each of our limbs to a corner of the mat, drawing our fingertips and toes towards opposite sides of the room. We could find a little good morning stretch here by reaching those fingertips back behind our head. We're going to work through some shoulders and posture here by exhaling to pull those arms down into our cactus arm position, 90-90s, elbows sliding down towards our shoulders. Big inhale as we send those hands back behind our head. Exhale as we pull those arms back into that 90-90 position to the sides of our body. Let's take 3 more breaths here. And last one. From here, let's send those fingertips back behind our head once again. We're going to draw our thumbs to the ground here, pinkies towards the sky. On our next exhale, we'll sweep those pinkies towards our thighs. And on our next inhale, we draw our thumbs back behind our head. Let's take a couple breaths here. Once again, working through our shoulders. Keeping this pace with our breath. Inhaling to draw those thumbs to the back of the room. Exhaling to draw our pinkies towards our thighs. And last one. Next time we exhale down, I want you to keep your hands placed to the sides of our thighs. We're going to take an exhale here, pulling our left knee in towards our chest, hugging it in towards our heart. Let's use our hands, guide that knee in some little circles, rolling out our hips here. From here, we'll draw that knee across our body, keeping our shoulders pressing on down to the mat. Coming into a little side body stretch here. If you want a little more, you can extend that leg, but we want to keep our knees lifted in this side body stretch. From here, let's draw that knee back to center, coming back to our starting position. We'll take an inhale to send that leg away. Exhale to pull the opposite knee in towards our chest, tugging it in towards our heart. We'll use our hands, guide that knee in some little circles once again. From here, we can draw that knee across our body, coming into that side body stretch once again, keeping those shoulders placed on the mat. If we want a little more, we can extend through that leg, keeping our knees lifted. From here, let's pull those knees back to our starting position. And we'll draw both knees in towards our chest here, hugging them in towards our heart. We can give ourselves a moment here, rolling out our shoulders, rolling out our hips on the mat, giving ourselves a little massage to the back against the mat. From here, we'll work our hands to the bases of our feet, drawing our heels up to the sky, coming into our happy baby, just opening up through the hips here. We can pedal out our legs if it feels right. Find a rock and roll. From here, let's bring our hands to the bases of our knees and rock and roll on up. We'll turn those knees to the sides of our bodies before we turn to find our tabletop position. Here, hands stacking underneath shoulders, knees stacking underneath hips. Let's bring our ankles together, widen the straddle of our knees, sit back onto our heels, and come on down into our child's pose. This is where we'll wrap out our class for today. I think this is a great time to set an intention for the weekend ahead of you. What are we looking forward to? How do we want to be productive in our personal lives? How do we want to be productive with our relationships, our friendships? How are we going to bring joy into your life this weekend? We can also reflect on ways that we're going to seek rest and respite. How are we going to recharge? I think it's very easy to be goal-oriented in many aspects of our life, but one of the times where those goals seem to fall short is in this time that we set aside for ourselves to relax, to rejuvenate. So be goal-oriented in your rest this weekend. When we're ready, let's walk those hands in towards our chest, coming back up to the day. That's going to wrap up Corn Restore for today. Thank you all so much for being here. I hope you have a fabulous weekend. It is so sunny and gorgeous outside, and hopefully it stays that way, knock on wood. But I will see you all next week.